What a pleasure it's so much to hear it from yourself.
Oh, great, man. I'm glad we finally hooked it up.
Yeah, that's right.
How are things? Where you're in Switzerland?
Yeah, I'm living in Zurich in Switzerland. Yeah,
All right. Well, I
yeah.
need to get over there. Anyway, it's been a
Any
while.
anytime, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you played here, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But it's been a while. Well, I mean,
Hmm.
since COVID hit and everything, everything's changed.
Yeah, that's right. Let's hope it change again. It changes again to the other
I
side.
hope so. I just got it actually. I got this last
Hmm.
variant. It's the first time I've gotten it, and it wasn't bad at all. But
Hmm.
anyway.
So you're through with it now.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. I was last week.
Uh-huh.
A little cough and stuff, but nothing major. How about you? Have you avoided it? Over?
Well, I think I've had it 2 years ago. Yeah, in the very
Oh, you
beginning.
had it when it came out.
Yeah, I think so.
That's not good, but you're here, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my smell
All that.
and all that
Yeah,
stuff, but it's kind of back. Mhm.
good. A kind of
Yeah,
bad. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh well. Anyway, all
yeah.
right.
Well, let's talk about something more beautiful than
Yeah,
we
sure.
just. Well, I just read that you played with Chet Baker and Sonny Rollins. Was that your
Yeah.
first gig, or you had to fool around with other people before
Oh,
that?
I was in New York. I came to New York in the 70s
Hmm.
and early 70s. And so I came there to learn. I didn't come there as a finished product. So I studied with a great cat, Richie Byrack. I don't know if you know
Hmm.
his
Yeah,
playing.
he's
Yeah,
in
Richie's living in
Germany now.
Leipzig,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Hmm.
he's been
Hmm.
there for a while.
Hmm.
And Richie was tremendous, and so many pianists went through Richie as a teacher in New York. His
Hmm.
legacy is not only as a player but also as a teacher, I think. Um, and then I got into so I was trying to do the modern jazz thing in New York as well as, and then I got into the Latin scene too. You know, it was happening in New York and I was into the music and I knew some of my heroes like Herbie and Chick had gone through that.
Hmm.
And I was, I just got into it. And so the first gig I got actually, first road gig, well, actually, I was playing with Chet Baker and I was playing with Mongo Santa Maria at the same time, two very different kind of
Hmm.
experiences. But nonetheless, so Mongo got a gig on the West Coast for a month, the West Coast of the US. And then Chet also asked me to play in Europe with him. And I remember at the time that people were telling me to be a little careful with Chet. you know, as much as I loved him, and Chet was when I was playing with him was in a methadone drug program,
Hmm.
so he was really pretty lucid. But being I was in my young 20s, now I could handle it easy. If somebody stranded me in Europe, no big deal. I'm a seasoned traveler, but in those days I was a little nervous about it. So I went with Mongo at the time. I went to California with Mongo and did a tour and ended up playing with him for a couple of years. And that was kind of the end of my Chet experience. But the
Hmm.
Chet Baker experience was great. I mean, uh, I've said it's the closest I'll ever get to playing with Miles. Just that kind of sensibility
Hmm.
from that era of, but that delicate thing.
Yeah.
Although Chet really could be ferocious on the trumpet too. That's a side of him that a lot of people haven't heard, but I certainly heard it on the gig, and it was very inspiring.
Was he singing already at that time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So that was
Hmm.
fun too
Hmm.
to accompany him on that, with
Hmm.
that sensitivity.
Yeah.
So, but then Sonny Rollins also came calling in the I don't know if it was late '70s or early '80s, and so that was another great experience.
Hmm.
Anytime you get next to these kind of giants of jazz who are the legendary people, you always got to feel a little blessed because
Hmm.
you hope some of their genius dust runs off on you, a little bit.
Yeah, the best school.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is really, and even though I've been teaching the last 14, 13, I don't know, some odd years at
Mhm.
Rutgers University, which I just, uh, I hate to use the word retired from. I didn't really retire. I just decided I'd had enough and I wanted to do other things.
Mhm.
But teaching and studying at a school is great, and getting a great teacher, are very valuable. But yeah, the other way, that's really that's really it.
Mhm.
You know.
But you
So
study classical piano, is that right?
I did some of that. My uncle
Mhm.
had a master's from the Manhattan School of Music, so I studied with him as a kid.
Mhm.
Although I was also into rock and roll. I was into Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. I was into other things, and I was also always into composing.
Mhm.
Composing has always been a big part of what I do, whether composing, arranging, everything. I've done a lot of that in New York for various artists, including myself.
Mhm.
And so that was really, even at a young age, that really got me. Writing music. I wrote an orchestra piece for my high school, and then in college and stuff. But I always, from a young age, I was always wondering, why is that on the page?
Uh-huh.
Why can't I can change that. I want to change that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I realized or had one of the realizations, I was wanted to be a jazz guy, because I talked to one of my colleagues, one of my fellow students, when I went to Oberlin Conservatory, and we were talking about writing classical music, and I said, well, I think you have an idea and you can develop it, and I think you can do a number of ways correctly.
Mhm.
And he said, no, I think there's one way that's just the right way. And I just couldn't get behind that because, as a jazz guy, you want to do it differently every time,
Mhm.
and so I found the music that would let me do that,
Mhm. That's it. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I found out that the what do you call the tune Oasis
Oasis, yeah.
with Dave Valentin that we
Right.
gonna talk.
Yeah,
You wrote that tune, yeah.
I wrote that.
I
That was
like
yeah,
that one,
that
yeah.
was sort of a hit.
It
I
is,
mean,
yeah.
honestly, because not only did Dave record it, I think back in the day, the GRP All Stars
Mhm.
recorded it. And that was, yeah, it was a tune we all played with Dave. I was with Dave for like 35 years until he died, and
Mhm.
he's kind of a lifelong friend,
Mhm.
uh, a lifelong musical collaborator, and a lifelong friend. And you know, I miss him today, and
Yeah,
it's
can imagine.
yeah, he just checked out way too soon. Um, but I'm very thankful for those relationships in life. Musical and personal, really. And when you
Mhm.
get both, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember some years ago I asked you for the Grand Slam tune that you were so
Ah,
nice that you
did I
sent.
send it to you?
Of course you did, yeah. And
All right.
that was I was really thrilled to have to look into because I was listening to that album a lot with and really enjoyed your great playing on it. So
Oh,
that's
thanks,
on all
thanks.
the
Yeah,
albums actually. Jungle Garden I was recently listening to again and just like that stuff that you guys came up
yeah,
with.
yeah. Well, we developed a sound with that rhythm section with
Hmm.
Lincoln and Robbie. Dave had a band. I had, I had, I didn't do the first few records that he did for GRP. Oscar Hernandez played piano,
Hmm.
and but I had subbed on Dave's band. Sub for Oscar, and so I got to know Dave there. Although he had a story that we met on the Latin circuit. Me playing with like a Latin band, which I did some in New York. I
Hmm.
played with some straight salsa bands. Actually, before I played with Mongo Santa Maria,
Okay.
I did get my Latin chops together just playing in straight Latin
Hmm.
situations, which was great. Um, But, yeah, we developed that with Dave, with, Lincoln Goings and Robbie Amin, and when Dave changed the band over, we had a different rhythm section, he wanted a different sound, and the rest is history. I mean, I don't know how many we did, 20 CDs, I don't know how
Hmm.
many, so, a lot, a bunch for GRP and then for a few other labels,
Hmm.
and, And the thing, Dave also encouraged me to write for him, and that
Mhm,
was big, because
mhm.
as I said, I was a writer as well as a player. I always wanted to do that, and playing with Dave was a great outlet for both.
Yeah, I loved his humor, and from what I've seen from afar, so I mean,
Yeah,
just
he
probably a
was
great character to be around, right?
total nutcase. He was a
Mhm,
total character,
mhm.
but a great guy, great guy.
And he ran the band. I mean, I think you guys played open air on the streets, from to festivals and clubs, everything. Is that correct from what I've observed?
We did all kinds of things. I mean,
Mhm,
I think I mean, we used to go to Europe very often, a
mhm,
lot. I mean, he was managed by a guy who I think passed away a few years ago, Eric Cressman,
mhm,
who also happens to be who was his Tanya married to Tanya Maria at the time and managed her. And I think I got to know France better than the United States because we traveled so
mhm,
many. He had the connections there for us to play so many festivals and
mhm,
all these little towns.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, Dave's thing was great. I mean, we recorded, we traveled the world together. I wrote a lot of music for him. We hung out, we had a lot of fun. Nice experience.
Mhm. And was there like they had a set studio, like a GRP studio in New York at that time,
They
where you?
they did. They had a studio where the offices were, which we could more like a production studio, but there were other studios in New York. I mean, the business has changed a lot, but they had now those were the days of the big studios, you
Mhm,
know. Now everything is a little different in terms of producing CDs. But we did it different there. There were a few sound on sound. I think maybe we did something Clinton.
mhm,
Maybe I can't remember the names of all the studios, but
mhm.
they GRP did things first rate, and that was great.
Yeah, as far as I heard, Dave was the first artist that was signed to, so it kind of started right around that time with you.
He got in at the beginning.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm. Did you record as well for GRP? You met Dave Grusin and all that stuff. Yeah,
yeah, sure.
great.
Yeah, Dave's still hanging in there. I haven't seen Dave Grusin in a long time. Probably like 10 years or something. But good guy. Dave is really nice, and of course Larry Rosen, who was also in the company, who died a few years ago.
Yeah.
But both those guys were great. But Dave, in particular, always very generous, tremendous musician. I mean,
Mm,
between his film score writing and his piano playing and his arranging and writing, I have a lot of respect for him.
mm. You guys played like Latin jazz festivals or all kinds of music festivals around the world with
All
Dave.
kinds of music
Yeah.
festivals. Yeah, mostly jazz. Really more jazz festivals.
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
the Latin jazz thing was. I mean, the Latin jazz thing to me is always jazz. It's jazz, and you see one of the. I don't know if you have one of my latest records called Jazz Latin. um, on the Savant label. I've been recording for Savant for the past 10 years. I think Dave did his last few records, but
mhm.
if you haven't heard the records I've done for them, well, get a nice, good bottle of wine and check them out. And I think there's a lot of great music on them.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but the record was called Jazz Latin, and I did that for a reason. I wanted to put the jazz first
Mhm,
and the Latin second. Not that, you know, I just wanted to differentiate myself, which people probably didn't pick up on. But between somebody like me or somebody like Eddie Palmieri, who I consider a friend and who I have also a lot of respect for, but Eddie's more on the Latin side, and then he brings the jazz into that, whereas I'm maybe a little more on the jazz side, and I bring the Latin
mhm,
into my jazz concept.
mhm. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And how did you develop over the years the craft on the piano and the writing? Was that something consistent or just project wise that you approached it?
Well, like I said, I've always challenged myself to be a writer, and
Mhm,
I think that is something that I encourage everybody to get out there and challenge yourself to, you know, in whatever way you feel, whether it's playing or writing or whatever musical endeavor grabs you. But I think you have to do that. So I wake up in the morning thinking, "Hey, man, what tune is out there that I'm going to write?"
mhm,
But I certainly so I'm always writing. I'm always writing things and always have ideas. I have 3 or 4 projects out in my mind already.
mhm,
What I'd like to do. But as I approached every record and continue to approach every recording I do with the same focus um, and energy that I approached my first CD.
mhm,
I really feel like it's important. Every project is important. Um, you give it your all. You put in, you, you pick the best music. If I'm writing for an artist, I try to showcase that artist in the best possible light, including Dave. I knew how Dave played.
mhm.
Um, Intimately, I knew how he played. So I tried to write things sometimes that really fit his style,
Mhm.
and so I'm always thinking about things, and I guess that's, your question is like, I'm always, the brain is always working.
So, yeah, that's the
you
the
know?
main thing. Yeah, I see,
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. And I also saw you guys were at the Ramsey Lewis Jazz Legends show that is on YouTube, for
Yeah.
example, the tape. Really loved that performance as well. Can you tell us a little bit about the insides of that show? I mean, you guys had to rehearse, or you just came from another gig and played the tune and went
Yeah.
off
Well, that
stage,
was
or?
that was produced by Larry Rosen from
Ah, okay.
GRP, and as I said before, those guys did things right. They didn't scrimp on money in terms of production. That's why those GRP records, I think they stand up because the sound is really good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Um, so that was the same kind of situation. We went to Chicago for that.
Hmm.
I guess Ramsey was based in Chicago, and went to a great studio there and recorded it. But it took time. It took a little time to get things right, but they did it right, and I think it's a show that endures and has lasting value. But yeah, we just went in and played.
It's
Uh,
that one song, right?
Obsession, yeah,
Just
which
right.
was a tune which was a tune that Dave played often,
Uh-huh.
and so we just went in and banged it out.
But I think it was with a live audience, no?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was
So that
live.
wasn't like a studio. It wasn't like doing a record. It was more like just recording a live performance.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is which is great because that's
Hmm.
what we usually do.
Yeah. And how is it? I mean, in Latin jazz, a lot of times it gets quite busy. There is percussion going on. One guy's fiddling on top there, and but always when I'm listening to you, I'm amazed how you know when it's time to fill or when it's time to just accompany. I mean, it's how can you stay out of each other's plays, but also go when it's time? I mean,
Mm.
it's really
That's one of the eternal questions, isn't it? Like when do you just support as a
mhm,
pianist? When do you
mhm,
just support, and when do you jump out, maybe latch onto an idea that somebody's doing and
mhm.
set the band into a little chaos and try to make something happen? It's kind of like jumping out there and taking a chance.
Mhm.
You jump out of the plane without a parachute and hope you find one on the way down, which you well, when we're playing, we do find parachutes on the way down, but I don't endorse this in terms of real life. You're not going to find that parachute, but uh, we that's just from playing experience,
Hmm.
taste and being comfortable playing with the
Yeah.
people around you and being comfortable enough to take chances and to jump out there and make something happen and then also knowing the music well enough to support when you have to support, like behind a percussion solo,
Hmm.
pretty much you hold down the montuno.
Hmm.
And what better training ground for me for that was than working with Mongo Santa Maria when I
Hmm.
played with him. I mean, there and the rhythm section was great. The late great Steve Barrios was playing drums, and a great bass player, a guy named Lee Smith, who happens to be Christian McBride's dad, was the bass player. He's still around playing in Philadelphia, and we had a really great rhythm section in that band. And when Mongo's soloing, you got to learn how to just keep that keep that montuno going.
Hmm.
Which can be challenging.
And with Dave Valentine, of course, you guys knew each other. So, what did you know that sometimes he's going into that things that means I have to do that on the piano, like, or challenging him there a little bit, or make a joke here, or
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the more you play with somebody, the more you get comfortable, the more you get to know what they want, what they
mm,
like, what they need.
mm,
I would say that about just about anyone I played with,
mm,
whether it's Dave. I mean, I've played with many, many great artists, and it's the same, whether I'm playing with Dave or I'm playing with Gato Barbieri or even with Astrid Gilberto or Charles Fambro, the late great bass player. We did a lot of recordings with
mm,
um, others. I don't know, many, many. Fort
mm,
Apache with Jerry Gonzalez and the Fort Apache band. I played with them for 4 years while Larry Willis was playing with Roy Hargrove in the
mm,
90s. Certainly a tremendous experience, and each situation requires something else,
mm,
and you hope you can find the right thing to play to fit in.
mm. I think you mentioned when we were trying to find a date for the interview that you played a festival as a duo with Randy Brecker. Is that correct, or a group?
I did. Well,
Was it recently?
we did something. Yeah, maybe I don't know when that was, but yeah, Randy. I live at now at the end of Long Island
Hmm.
after living in New York and living around the New York area. Now I'm living sort of near the ocean, which is nice.
Hmm.
But Randy also lives out here, so we've hooked up on a couple of things, and yeah, we did a duo thing. Streaming, I think, for the Gen organization in New Orleans, Jazz Educators Network. That was about a year ago, though, so I don't know what I was referring to then, but
No, it
Randy,
must have been about 2 weeks ago or something.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks ago, I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
Sometimes.
Randy's around, but I think Randy's in Europe now, so I don't know
Mm,
if that was something with Randy or not.
mm,
Maybe you got that mixed up with somebody
mm,
else.
probably. Mhm.
But Randy's great. Good, great musician, great friend.
Wow. And what are you doing these days? Are you is
Yeah, well,
special melody that doesn't leave you?
yeah, well, like I said, I've been recording for the Savant label, which
Hmm.
is also High Note for the past, I don't know, 10 years or so. So I have a new record out called Change is Gonna Come. If you don't have it, I'll have to send you one. Um, uh, the title is a tune that the late great Sam Cooke recorded in the 60s. A change is going to come. I feel like I got slightly political on this record because I do believe many changes need to come along for the world. And well, I live in the United States. In the United States, we got some work to do here. Um, some of the titles, another title was "Enough Is Enough." Like, just
Yeah, I think it's
a
Bill
little.
for president.
Yeah, right, right. I was a little, dealing with some of the frustrating things I see out there. It's like, come on, guys, this is crazy. And I think the tune on the record gives that emotion.
Mhm,
But of course, the music stands on its own.
mhm,
Um, Lincoln Goings is playing on it. Craig Handy is on saxophone.
mhm,
Pedrito Martinez, hopefully you've heard of him. He's on percussion on a few tracks, and the great Steve Jordan
mhm.
is playing drums, who's playing with the Rolling Stones right now. But I got Steve Wally before Charlie Watts passed, and
Mhm,
I got him into the studio because Steve and I had played together with Sonny Rollins,
mm,
and then we had played together in a few situations, uh, not often, but in a few things over the years. And finally, I called him. I would say, "Steve, we got to do this," and he agreed.
mhm.
So it was great to have him in the
Beautiful.
studio because he's just such a great musician. The one of the widest guys. I mean, he plays with the Stones. He can play pop, rock, anything.
Mhm.
And he can swing as you know what off because he knows the jazz thing too. I mean, how many players can do that? There aren't many.
Yeah, so versatile. Mhm.
Yeah.
And
So
excuse me.
yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm playing still out here on Long Island. I'm the musical director for the Hamptons Jazz Fest.
Mhm.
So we have a jazz festival that goes on all throughout the summer.
Beautiful.
I'll be doing a concert with, at least I think I am. I might have mentioned to you with Billy Hart on August 8th
Maybe
out
that's
here.
what you mentioned. Yeah. Mhm,
Right,
mhm,
great, great drummer Billy Hart and Santi DiBriano,
mhm,
um, as well as other things.
mhm,
I'll be doing other things involved with that
mhm,
throughout the rest of the summer.
mhm,
So those are some of the highlights. Some other things going on in the fall, but
mhm,
I said I want to. I think one of the great things about music is that you should, God willing, you can get better your whole life. You can always look for things. You can always develop. Um, and I'm trying to do that every day.
mhm.
You know.
Yeah. I was going to ask. I read that you. I'm not sure if I understood it right. Like you got like composer of the year or something like. Is that kind of grant that you have? Here's the money, compose for another year, or is it something different?
Well, no, not really. I wish that had been a grant. It was just a nice accolade. But
Oh,
this past year, I was nominated for a Grammy, which
beautiful. Congratulations.
was a nice thing.
Hmm.
What I got nominated for was interesting, but I did a record for this guy, a drummer named Rich Barada in New York, and he's he spent most of his life being a movie producer, big movies,
Hmm.
um, and like some De Niro flicks. I mean, movies that you know.
Hmm.
Anyway, he was a producer on the movie Big with Tom Hanks way back when, and they had a scene where they played chopsticks
Hmm.
on it. So I did a Latin jazz arrangement of chopsticks, and lo and behold, people heard it, and I got nominated for a Grammy on that. I've done all this unbelievable kind of other stuff, but
It's
I did this.
all it's all about the promotion and the advertising, right?
Hey, you don't know.
How
Listen,
many people are
as
seeing it? Yeah.
Vincent Herring played on it,
Hmm.
great alto player,
Hmm.
and Vincent looked up and he said, "Bill, that is a killing arrangement of chopsticks. You should be proud." If you get a chance, just go to Rich Barada
Hmm. I will.
chopsticks. Google it and check it out. Uh, it's a lot of fun. So
Hmm.
so that was nice getting
Hmm.
nominated for Grammy. Did not win, but getting the nomination is good. We can always hope for next year.
Yeah. There's always some
So
motivation left.
hey, listen, it's always nice when you get a little recognition
Hmm.
for what you do. Hopefully you have enough drive in yourself that you don't really need that validation, but it's nice to get it when it comes along. So
Hmm.
beautiful.
It is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
cool.
anyway,
I think that was it in a nutshell. That we touched a lot of points. So we forgot something to mention. Something you want to tell me
uh,
just out of the blue that we.
no, there's a you gotta, I just would like people to listen to what I'm doing today.
Mhm.
Please check out A Change Is Gonna Come, Jazz, Latin, all the CDs I've done for the Savant label. Uh, and I know someone is working on it for me to get over to Europe a little bit next year. So I hope that happens, and COVID willing and
Yeah,
everything else willing, that I can get out there, and hopefully I'll see you in Zurich soon.
yeah. So you have someone who tries to book some gigs for you for a
Well,
trio or what?
now I do.
Hmm.
You always need help in that area.
Hmm.
So if anyone has any suggestions, if you have any suggestions on
Yeah, that's
people,
why I'm asking. Yeah, is it your trio that you're looking for work or?
the trio, yeah, or a
Hmm.
quartet.
Hmm.
Craig. I'd say the working band I have is with Lincoln Goings, Craig Handy, uh, myself, and Robbie Amin on
Hmm.
drums.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, if you have any suggestions in that
If I have
regard,
an idea, definitely. Yeah, Zurich must be on the list, no doubt.
yeah, yeah, send an email along.
I will.
you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
All right, man.
Was it,
Well, but you might be coming to New York, right? Are you coming
well,
to?
I'm not vaccinated, so not at the moment.
Uh,
Yeah,
so you can't. Not
so
yet.
I'm stuck. Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, then I gotta come see you, man.
Let's start like that.
Okay.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Bill. Thank you very much for your time.
Same here, Simon. Anytime. Just keep in touch.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.